One. Okay, we might have someone else show up later. I'm not sure if they're going to be here, but other than that, we can start. Welcome along, everybody, to the Cult Popture Movie Club. This is, of course, our monthly movie club where if you join our Cult Classic tier on Patreon, you get to join a little Zoom call with us and be part of the content. You know, you get to be part of an episode with AJ and Richard, the Cult Popture, the bros, the Cult Popture bros. Hey! How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Good?
Good.
Anyone doing bad?
Oh. Shall we talk
I'm
about
allergic
it?
to something in this house that I'm house sitting at. I don't know what I'm allergic to. And
Is
it's
it those
bothering
gorgeous
me.
girls behind you?
That's right. It's Powdersville. I'm allergic to fun.
Allergic to daddy issues.
So today we are going to be talking about Frank Capra's It's a Wonderful Life. It's a 1946 film, often called a Christmas film. This is the first time I've watched it not at Christmas and did not really notice that it's a Christmas film because it's not a Christmas film until like the last act of the film. I always falsely remember this movie as being like extremely long for some reason, but it's only like
well, I
2
think it's
hours.
just because it takes so long for the plot to kick in.
Right.
Like what the log line of this film is the last 20 minutes of it.
Yeah, that's true.
But it takes a lot of setting up to get to that point.
But I whenever I remember it in the same way people talk about Gone with the Wind or Lawrence of Arabia, where it's like, yeah, it's like 3.5 hours long because it's an old movie.
I think because it's sad. I think that's
Right.
what makes it feel long.
Well, who wants to, for anyone watching this who hasn't seen it, who wants to give us a brief rundown of what the movie's about?
One word synopsis of the film.
One word synopsis.
Suicide.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Sad. Seasonal
choice.
affective disorder. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Moon.
All right, who wants to give us a few words more synopsis of the film? In the Jimmy Stewart voice. No, don't do that. That would take so long. whenever Richard makes me summarize films,
wait a minute.
Hang on.
Whenever Richard makes me summarize films and do an impression at the same time, I'm always so concerned with the impression that I can't think of summarizing the film. And then both are bad. All right. Yeah, who wants
And
to
then
tell
he
us
goes,
what it's about?
that was a pretty good impression.
Good one.
AJ, listen back to it, man.
You're the one who makes me do them. I didn't ask to do this.
No, I didn't ask to do this.
Oh.
So to what you were saying, AJ, or Richard rather, the movie is about that he wishes, like he feels like his life is so terrible and he wishes he was never born, and he gets a glimpse of what that would look like. But exactly what you said. I actually marked it down. He doesn't say "I wish I was never born" until 1 hour and 44 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, into a 2-hour, 10-minute movie. This is like if everyone said that the plot of Fight Club was after finding out that Tyler Durden is imaginary, the narrator must stop, the terrorist attack.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, there's an hour and 45 minutes to get to that point. But that's what the film's really about. Yeah, it is. I do find it kind of interesting though, because so that is essentially the plot of the film, and we've talked about this before on Cult Popture. This is one of those like evergreen plot structures of a character wishes they'd never been born, much in the same way of like A Christmas Carol. The three being shown Christmas past, present, and future. And yeah, because
it's like if you're doing a Christmas special in your franchise, are you doing It's a Wonderful Life or are you doing Christmas Carol? Which one are you picking?
Yeah. But
two ideas which don't inherently relate to Christmas, but are always
Has
used.
Barbie done this yet?
Barbie's done Christmas Carol. She hasn't done.
No, has it done I Wish Never Been Born?
No.
Nah.
Barbie wishes she's never been born, and beauty standards are just way more healthy and like.
Or the brats took over.
But I do think it's interesting that it's like, when you have your main character, like the crux of the film is your main character attempting suicide, that you kind of do need a long time to especially when the whole point is like, this is a really good man. And what drives a man like that to suicide is like, because and you get into his head and you think like, I can see why you think this is the best option, because he's told he's worth more money dead than alive. And so, yeah, it makes sense that you have that much of a lead in time, but then the ending does feel so rushed, and that like his life has completely changed because of a 30-minute experience he had.
Yeah. So one interesting thing here that you pointed out to me yesterday, Richard, when we were talking about the film, was that it's based on a short story. Wikipedia calls it a booklet, which is interesting. I've never heard of a short story. I think of a booklet. I think of like, welcome to, this restaurant. Welcome to Lone Star.
Yeah.
There you go. There's a local reference.
I'm sure everyone loved that.
Based on a short story called "The Greatest Gift" by Philip Van Doren Stern, published in 1943, which is in turn loosely based on A Christmas Carol. So, and when we first made the observation that Christmas specials and franchises are either Wonderful Life or Christmas Carol, I think I also made the observation then that like they're pretty similar bases for. They're both about if you were never born or if you weren't around anymore. They're both about seeing a world, how you've affected the world, and what the world would be like if you weren't there. So it's interesting to know that they do just have the same source. So that's cool. So yeah, the first 2/3 of the movie, as you guys all said, is sort of more about setting up how selfless and good-hearted and good-natured George Bailey, played by James Stewart, is. He gives up a lot of his dreams.
Who is he played by?
James Stewart, Jimmy Stewart.
James Stewart.
Oh, Jimmy Stewart. The way that Jimmy Stewart pronounces Stewart is so different to the way I pronounce Stewart. Like I say like SCHEWART, Stewart, and he says Stewart. Like, it's like there's such a in there that New Zealanders were not graced with in the accent game. Impervious to. Like YouTube. Whenever I say YouTube in one of my videos, I try to say YouTube because I hate how tube sounds, or stupid. I've trained myself to say stupid when I'm saying stupid.
I say stupid because I think it sounds funnier.
Yeah, same. Jimmy stupid.
All right, let's just go around because I'm keen to know who's seen this film before. Has anyone not seen it?
I haven't seen it before.
Oh,
you guys haven't seen it before.
No, first time.
What do you mean you haven't seen it before?
Hold on a second.
I've seen it a few times. And
Dan and Brent, you guys had seen it a few times.
Yeah, I saw it.
A while.
Yeah, like once in high school for a film class, and then otherwise just like, oh, it's on Christmas, it's on in the background while we're eating turkey.
Dan?
Yeah.
I haven't watched in a while. I watched a little bit as a kid, but my family hates this movie, and I can see why.
Wow. It's one thing is that's maybe relevant for this isn't a very New Zealand movie. Like, not a lot of people in New Zealand.
They don't go to New Zealand at any point. None of them have the accent. It's weird. It's very not New Zealand.
2 of the 4 times I think that I've seen this movie have been at an outdoor movie night in someone's backyard, because it's like a Christmas movie. And the first time I saw it was actually in that context. It's really not a New Zealand. Like, people in New Zealand haven't seen this film. They probably
it's just not played on TV here very much. But like a lot of people I know have seen it because it's kind of a, you seek it out at some point because it's referenced everywhere, and so it's like
I reckon normies haven't seen it though. New Zealand normies haven't seen it. But yeah,
Vincent Jensen, first experience with the film, eh?
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah, well, let's go. Who wants to go first? What'd you think of it?
Vincent, you're a bit more warmed up, eh?
I'll stop doing it. So, of course, through pop culture, I know, what this film is about and different, parodies and references about it. But yeah, that was my main thing, was how long it took for it to happen, how he was never born. But I do like seeing his, from his youth through like just ready for college to up until I don't know, maybe he's in his 30s or 40s by the end when he wish he wasn't born. I just love seeing his life, and then it like the thing I know happens. Like so much was new that I didn't expect to happen. And Jimmy Stewart, I love him. He's amazing. Well, give me the moon, and I'll love it. Bro.
That's the line, yeah.
And Jensen,
2 hours of rap.
Yeah, Jimmy or James Stewart, he's mesmerizing to watch. Like you don't even have to be listening to what he's saying. You're just sort of staring at his face going, yeah, I'm digging this. Not paying attention, but I like it. No, I watched it pretty intently. And so I watched it all the way through. I didn't know pretty much anything about the film. And like you, I was surprised by how long it was to get to that point. But I really, really enjoyed the movie, just as like, it didn't even need a plot. I just enjoyed watching him go through life. And then I actually went and watched basically the turn is when Uncle Billy loses the $8,000, right?
Fucking Billy.
Fuck him.
We'll come back.
I would say. Yeah, but I would say like that's when the movie switches from being, I would say, not exactly a feel-good movie, but sort of a pleasant movie to watch. And then suddenly everything gets really shouty and intense and confusing for the characters on screen. Yeah, exactly. And so I went and I watched it late last night, and I wanted to watch it again this morning to see if I had the same impression of it, and I did. And I didn't particularly like the last 20 minutes that's so famous, to be totally honest. And well, I'm sure we'll get into why people like it or don't like it. But very briefly, it's because I find the characterization doesn't match with what actually happens. He's a great guy, and suddenly he turns into a huge asshole for about an hour, and then he has this transformative experience, like you said, for 30 minutes, and now he is back to being a great guy. And it's just very jarring. It was jarring for me, anyways.
Well, like, so you think that when he comes back to his reality, that people would like still be mad at him for being an asshole?
Yeah, they would. He did a bunch of things. I mean, it's not that actually I like the ending. It's that sort of the turn where he goes a little bit insane, and then while he's being a crazy person, it was kind of hard. It was really hard to watch, frankly.
Yeah.
I actually intentionally left the room when he started yelling at his kids, because
that's a really hard scene to watch. But it's really interesting you said that, because for me it's like that the reason the movie takes so long to get to that point is to show how out of character that is for him. And that like he's never yelled at anyone in his life, but it's like these are the circumstances that would drive him to do that. And then I think that like one bad experience like that isn't gonna ruin his life, and so everyone is still willing to come through and support him at the end there. But yeah,
it's like the ultimate culmination film. Like you get so many films where like, and they're always usually dark. Like I'd call like Joker a culmination film, right? Where it's a series of things which break someone. And this is one of the only culmination films I can think of where it like culminates in a positive thing. But there is I agree. I like what you're saying, Richard, that like the front loaded part of the movie, the first 2/3 of the movie, well, that's not really front loaded, is it? But the fact that it's like this famous last 20 minutes with an hour 40 tacked on the front is there because it's like you've got to understand this is such a good guy, and you've also got to understand how much he's sacrificed his whole life so that when he becomes a huge asshole, that it's like, I would have cracked sooner, probably. I probably wouldn't have lasted this long.
It's one bad day.
Yeah, it's the killing joke. That's all it is. And so I can understand feeling like that's out of character. And it is hard to watch, but I think it's because I'm so in love with the character by that point. It's what an intoxicatingly nice character George Bailey is,
I will say, following on from your thing, Jensen, about not loving the last 20 minutes. I do find it kind of frustrating because it's one of those things, and I think I've said this on the podcast before, but I get frustrated watching like zombie movies when it's so clear to the audience what's going on and the characters just refuse to believe it. And so it's like the whole time it's like, yeah, I told you you've never been born, so this is what's happening. And he's like, hey, you were at my wedding. And it's like, oh my God, dude, like it's pretty fucking
God,
obvious.
George.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's fair. Although it is realistic in a way, because a normal sane person, if they were suddenly put in that situation, it would take them longer than a scene to be like, okay, this is obviously something supernatural that's happening to me. Like he just
and also
believe it,
he
and
hadn't
it's
been
fair.
exposed to the story structure of It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah,
up
yeah,
until that
yeah.
point.
Yeah,
These days, if someone was like, "You've been It's a Wonderful Life," I'd be like, "Oh, okay, cool. I know what the stakes are."
Okay. Yeah, no, that's one thing I really like about this movie, though, is like if it didn't start with the angels, and like imagine if this movie was completely grounded until the last act, and then it's like now there's an angel, I'd be like, what? But it's so carefully
It starts
crafted
with the angels.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's so carefully crafted to be like, this is a story about divine intervention. It always has been. It's just not relevant.
It always will be.
I
Unless
wonder,
it gets re-edited, I guess.
talking about the stars and the angels at the beginning, that felt like such a weird way to start.
It's so stupid. I hate it.
And like
Even bringing the fourth wall.
yeah, why wouldn't
Like,
they
why'd you pause it? Why'd you stop?
Gotta go to the bathroom.
My movie is stopping.
I feel like they could have just had like angels, like people. Like, why did they personify them just as literal stars? I don't know. It felt like, especially for that time, it felt like a very weird choice to make.
Well, wasn't that like cool cutting edge special effects at the time? This is 1946, so like a galaxy backdrop with some light up stars is the best they can do, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's funny. This is the second movie that AJ, you and I have watched for the podcast, which features like a third party pausing the film to explain something, and the characters Bert and Ernie.
I gotta ask: is this where Bert and Ernie are from?
Yes.
Well, yeah. There's some
naming
conjecture about it. Some people say no, but like people close to Jim Henson have said like he's a genius, but he doesn't remember details like character names. Like they say he probably didn't get the names from them.
Anyone ever seen the world's?
It seems so obvious, like how else could it have been? But yeah, people close to Jim Henson say that's not where it's from.
Has anyone ever seen The World's Fastest Indian? It's an Anthony Hopkins movie set in New Zealand. I mean,
that's a very New Zealand film.
He does an amazing New Zealand accent. It's such a regionally specific New Zealand accent, and Anthony Hopkins like nails it. But his character's name is Bert Monroe, and then incidentally, at one point in the movie, he's reminiscing about his brother Ernie, and I was always like, "What the fuck? You didn't make his brother's name Ernie?"
That's where Jim Henson got it from.
But another fun thing about has anyone ever seen The Wages of Fear? I think it's called. It's a very old film. I think it's French, and it's about a trucking party that have to take like three nuclear, well, not nuclear, but like, oh no, it's nitroglycerin, like 3 tanks of nitroglycerin through a mountain, and so they have to be very careful as they're driving through. And there's a Mario and a Luigi in that movie, and that's also apparently where Mario and Luigi got their name from, is this random avant-garde French film from the like 40s or 50s. So that's a fun one. But back to It's a Wonderful Life, I guess if we must. What do everyone else think about it? We haven't found out what Dan or Brent or even myself or Richard really think of the film. So someone else talk. Someone else tell me what you think.
I want to hear because Dan teased having a hot take. So I think let's go Brent first, and then we can hear Dan's hot take.
Because Brent's going to have the most tepid, like normal take there is.
Good old reliable Brent
from Texas.
I didn't really. I'm sorry to say this, Jensen. I didn't really care about anyone. Like it didn't hold my interest. And
Now I'm personally offended.
I think that, and part of it is because, again, like I watched it once in school, and then I've seen like so many scenes so many times. So like you've seen the lasso of the moon, and you've seen when they're dancing and the floor opens up, and there's all those moments that I felt like, oh, those are familiar. And then like the thing at the bank when he's, oh, well, your $23 is over here, that kind of thing. Like,
No, I don't have your money. It's Bill's house.
Bill's house.
Fred's house. Hey, what you doing with my money at your house, Fred?
But so all of those moments are really good, but I don't know why. I just couldn't be motivated to invest myself. So like,
is this every time you've watched it, or just this time?
Well, just this time, because any other time I've watched it, I haven't really watched it.
Right.
So I think that it's just like that. Like, it's always been kind of like a background movie for me. So I didn't care to pay much attention to it, I guess. I don't know. Sorry.
That's okay.
And you thought I had a hot take. You thought that I was going to come in and say what you just said. Huh?
Well, Dan, what's your... It's maybe not going to be so hot now.
So the reason why this was never really beloved in my household, why this was hated as a movie in my household, is that it is not a good Christmas movie. All right. The whole part of Christmas is only the last bit, which is the most memorable part of the film for many people. Right. And if you take that last act into a full-length film, I would be like, yes, that's a good Christmas movie because it's all about immediate showing redemptive change. Instead, when you sit down Christmas time, when you're already feeling very depressed, you see just a man get beat down by the society system around him, capitalism, everything, and then he becomes an awful person. You see it firsthand. He becomes an asshole to his kids, asshole to his wife, at multiple stages in their relationship, which is like what I appreciate is they let him be a bad guy. And that's, again, this is me liking it as a non-Christmas movie this time, but still hating it as a Christmas film. Because while it is important to explore, contemplations of suicide around that time, because Christmas is the #1 suicide day, period. So I think it's important to address that, but maybe focus, I don't know. It feels like two different movies, they mesh together, and I like them separately and dislike them separately for different reasons. So I had a very weird reception this time around.
Okay.
I don't know if that made any sense.
Richard, what do you think of the movie?
I like it. I think it's a perfect Christmas movie.
I like fucking love this movie. Not to be the basic bitch of the movie club episode, apparently, but like I think this is 5 stars. I think this is a perfect film. I think it's
100 stars.
It's definitely. It's definitely like structurally weird. I'm not denying that structurally it's very, very like out of left field and very uncommon. But so many movies from this period were also pretty structurally weird. Like you watch old movies and the main thing you realize is like, wow, like story structure wasn't really nailed till much later, huh? Like movies from the last 50 years look a lot different from movies before that.
From the next 50 years.
Yeah.
It's all just superhero movies.
And it's and in a way like a part of me way prefers films like It's a Wonderful Life or Casablanca to movies we get these days because of that.
Is it just the part that wants people to think you're cool?
No, not at all. That's a completely different. That's why I pretend to like Marvel movies. It's the
There never was an Aaron.
There's a purity to it.
Primal
There's a
Fear
purity
and
an organic unfolding to watching a movie told without seemingly any influence from what came before. I'm sure obviously there will be, but I don't recognize that influence. When I watch Zack Snyder's Justice League, I go, oh yeah, because we've had 20 years of superhero movies and that's all influencing this. Whereas this is like, what a weird way to tell a very specific story. I've never seen a movie with an hour and 45-minute introduction before. Like, you know, and like, I just think there's something so pure and so wonderful. I think it's such a wholesome movie. It makes me like, I'm in love with the message. I'm in love with the characters. The as trite and cliched as it is, the "you want the moon" line, which is written verbatim on Wikipedia. If you wanted me to recite it for you,
No, we don't have to do that.
no, okay. I think that's a wonderful line of dialogue. I think it's great. As
That's
much
why
as
McFly used it in their hit song "Love Is Easy."
I was
I don't know
just
if that
about
made
to
it to the
say that.
States, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I
And
missed it.
even
Well,
as much as
You
we've
guys are
been
missing out.
as much as we've been dunking on the Jimmy Stewart voice, like him saying "I want to live again" is like I unironically enjoy that as well as well as enjoying it ironically. I also unironically enjoy it, and it's very comforting for me to hear Jimmy Stewart's weird.
It's like doing an
voice
impression of
saying
Borat. It's
Yeah.
unironically enjoyable.
I was about to talk about
nice.
Borat.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was literally just about to talk about Borat.
My
Okay?
wife.
What if I want to see It's a Wonderful Life, but Borat?
Okay. Yeah.
What would some lines from that sound like, Dan?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not the expert board impressionist. Here.
All right, here I go. What do you want? Mary, you want the moon? Very nice. Just want the moon. Just say the word, throw a lasso around that.
Then you become my wife.
You become my wife.
Thank you. That's all I wanted from this call.
Well, I give you the moon.
I wish I'd never been born. That was Italian.
That was Mario.
What do you want? The moon?
Also, I recognize the value. I recognize the quality and like a lot of the things you're saying, AJ. Like I appreciate so many of the things, but I feel like I like its influence more than I like the movie itself. So like I enjoy the Nicolas Cage movie The Family Man, which is basically just a remake of this, right? But he's a rich asshole versus, you know, all that stuff. But I like that because that movie's like 90 minutes long and it's got that story structure I'm familiar with and the beats and everything like that. Or I like I thought about The Notebook when I was watching this.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship between George and Mary in the beginning, it's so captivating, and it's so there's an energy and a tension to it that reminded me of The Notebook. And I was like, well, I liked it in The Notebook because that's the aesthetic that I understand. And also, if we want to talk about the colorization, Richard, we can do that in a little bit too, because I hated it.
So who watched the colorized version?
I watched
Never.
5 minutes.
I
of it and
never
just
will.
couldn't.
Because I've seen the black and white one a few times, and I've got the colorized version on Blu-ray, and I just wanted to see, you know, what I thought of it because I've never watched it before, and I thought it might be a fun little talking point. But yeah, because it is so interesting to watch a colorized movie. It was colorized in 2007, according to the copyright on my Blu-ray, but which is, you know, fairly recent, and it's so fascinating to me because there's just something slightly off about it, but it's so hard to kind of identify exactly what that is. It's like, you light and you contrast things differently when you're shooting for black and white. Like that's just a fact. And so there are like certain things that don't quite look right. And maybe it's those like variations in color that like aren't picked up. So like, you know, skin tone isn't just one color. It's like there'll be little patches of red and things like that. I think they're not picked up. But the one thing I always find interesting when watching something that's colorized is like, and this stood out to me the most in one of the opening scenes when you see young George save his little brother from drowning, and one of the kids is wearing a green jacket and an orange hat, and it's like there wouldn't have even been color photography on set, and so to like I wonder if there is some way that they can know, looking at the black and white, what colors they would have been, or is someone just arbitrarily making the decision to make them green and orange?
That also makes me wonder, like, do they have the, pieces, like set pieces or costume pieces or things like that? Like, has any of that been preserved from this? Was this movie appreciated at its time, or did it become a Christmas classic? Like,
I know someone's on Wikipedia right now.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you should ask, Brent.
It's famously touted as one of those wasn't appreciated in its time films, but it was nominated for Best Picture, so it did have some critical reception. But it made less than its budget back at the box office, and with the break-even point being W budget, it was considered a box office failure. And I guess but we should the kind of the reason that this is a holiday classic is because it's of all these issues around the public domain, and because it's in such a strange place at the moment, because it's often touted as being in the public domain, similar to Night of the Living Dead, but it's actually not. It's the copyright was weird for a while, but it was then bought, so it's like Paramount currently owns the film. But yeah, Dan, were you gonna say something there?
I was gonna say that exact thing. It was technically in a limbo, in a gray area of it. Yeah. It's weird. And so this actually, and this is a fun discussion here, but this kind of confusion actually, does anyone remember, because I remember reading about this in 2013, but that a sequel was announced in 2013 called It's a Wonderful Life, the rest of the story. And it was going to star Carolyn Grimes reprising her role as Zuzu, as a 75-year-old Zuzu, and who is now an angel, and she teaches George Bailey's grandson, who's become an evil dick. She shows him how much better the world would have been if he'd never been born, and essentially showing more of a Christmas Carol kind of spin on it.
So her son, sorry?
George Bailey's grandson.
But she's George Bailey's daughter.
Yeah.
So
son or nephew, because does he have another daughter?
Yeah. And he's got a couple of he's got a few kids, so they don't have to necessarily. It was anyway, but and but she's also now an angel. But yeah, and then it was cancelled essentially because Paramount were like, we didn't say you could make this. And then they didn't pursue the rights or anything like that. But one thing that I just discovered that's very interesting, which might have to end this call soon, is the film does have a sequel.
I was just on Wikipedia for that. I was just about to say it.
And this even more shocking to me. So we mentioned at the start that this is not a very New Zealand movie, but Clarence, the 1990 made-for-television movie starring Robert Carradine as Clarence the Angel from the original film, is the country of origin of the film is a combo, same combination of this call actually, United States, Canada, and New Zealand.
Hey.
Produced by Television New Zealand, co-produced.
Which is where I work. And so, what the fuck?
Don't tell you that in onboarding?
Yeah.
Huh?
Did he try to get out of the helicopter, but not this?
But yeah, I'm gonna look this up on.
And he directed
Monday
other
on,
movies you've
service.
covered before. This person, I think.
Wow. Eric
a
Till.
Muppet. No, you didn't watch a Muppet Family Christmas, did you?
No.
No, they didn't.
Eric Till's currently 91.
Get him on the podcast.
He directed The Christmas Story, Fraggle Rock.
I am both shocked. I'm in disbelief that one, that they made a sequel to this movie, and two, that they can just say it as a sequel to it. They can just be like, yeah, it's a sequel to It's a Wonderful Life. It feels more like it's a public domain situation, but I guess
the tagline for the film is "The angel from It's a Wonderful Life is back." And it actually has two taglines. The other one is a comedy that's heaven sent.
Who wants to guess its Rotten Tomatoes score, guys?
20.
You're guessing too high.
I'm gonna get 65. Oh,
It's 17. 17. A 17% score to one of the like most
80
revered
less
films
than
of
the
all
original
time.
film.
Oh my god.
Jesus.
That's an entire pretty good film worse than that.
Even Rocky had its Rocky 5, all right?
Wow. I'm really angry at the wording that it's a sequel to It's a Wonderful Life. I think that's unfair.
It's one of those things where it sounds like it's a like essentially a comedy remake, but they're like, we'll just call the angel Clarence, and it's from the perspective of the angel.
It really pisses me off that they're using the term sequel. If they'd called it inspired by, adapted from, whatever, that's fine. But to boldly be like, it is a sequel. This is canon. I'm like, God.
Just like Forgetting Sarah Marshall, it's a sequel built off of one character only.
Yeah, they've get him to the Greek did. Maybe we can now call it Clarencing. When you make a spin-off about one character.
So I guess we legally can't continue to talk about this.
I want to talk about Pottersville.
Sorry, you should have brought it up before we found out there was a sequel.
Pottersville rules. It has a strip club. It has bars. Places are open past 9 p.m. There are billiard tables.
Have you never seen any of those things before?
No, because it doesn't exist in Bedford Falls. It only exists in Pottersville version of that town. It's bustling. It's fun. I want to hang out there. I want to hang out in Bedford Falls.
Yeah, it seemed a bit confusing. Like, were they trying to say like all of this stuff is awful and how dare you make this happen by never
a sex worker. Oh no, it's horrible here. Like,
and also like in Bedford
Tiki
Falls, you're
bars.
trying to get an early night because it's Christmas the next day, and you just hear from like the window.
Some say
he does this every
cold,
Christmas.
On cold Christmas nights, if you listen very, very closely, you'll hear off in the distance. Was that too quiet for the microphone?
No, it was perfect.
Hey, there's not just Clarence, guys. There's other things. There's other movies. There's a 1997 television movie called Merry Christmas, George Bailey, which looks like a remake. It stars Bill Pullman and Nathan Lane and Sally Field.
What?
Martin
That's
Landau.
so funny because while I was watching the film, I thought Nathan Lane would be a good Clarence.
And he plays Clarence.
1995, like those are some hard hitters.
And there's also a 1977 made-for-TV film called It Happened One Christmas, which is supposed to be a gender-reversed version. The original gender-swapped reboot. Wikipedia also
for the
lists...
record, Merry Christmas, George Bailey is a filmed live production, which was taped as a benefit for the AIDS Foundation.
Right.
Here's the poster, by the way. The poster for the movie is insane.
God.
Oh my God. Why?
There's also
What one is that?
This is for Clarence. Sorry.
Right.
It looks like the Jesus fresco.
Oh boy.
So there's also a retelling of the movie as a made-for-TV movie, which aired in 2013 called The Christmas Spirit, and was supposed to be the first in a series focusing on the character, someone named Hart. The Wikipedia writes it like I should know who that is. And then Wikipedia also lists Click and the Warehouse 13 season 3 episode The Greatest Gift as remakes of It's a Wonderful Life, which I think is maybe a bit stretching it.
Furthermore to Merry Christmas, George Bailey, not only is it a filmed live production, it's a filmed live production of a radio play, so it's them standing around holding scripts.
Come on.
No, radio plays. I got no problem. I got no beef with radio plays.
Yeah, they're just podcasts. But it is also worth mentioning, we have covered this on the podcast, that there is also the famous Very Muppet Christmas movie, which does this and famously confirms Kermit the Frog's involvement in 9/11.
Just like this movie, it's better without him.
Oh. Are you saying that because you're a Pottersville stan?
I'm a Pottersville. I'm a problematic fan. All right, it's my problem.
Pottersville's my
Dan,
problematic.
did you like
the
Dan, did you like the alternate 1985 with Biff running the town then as well?
Okay, let's not go that far. Okay,
You burned down the skull.
Wait, you guys just
I'll have
lived
to
through the
reevaluate and
alternate
get back to you.
1985 where Biff was president, didn't you?
Yeah.
Joking about
We
Trump
did.
with Americans. Like,
yeah. Come on,
Like
we've only
joking
had 2
about
months. Let
9/11 with
us forget a
Americans,
little
and
bit
you
longer.
What's a worse tragedy, Trump or 9/11?
Oh my God.
Don't
You-
say
I
I
things
mean,
you'll regret.
9/11 was just one day.
Yeah, Trump's responsible for a lot. Well,
But
One
9/11,
really
the
bad
response to
day.
it, I'm going to conflate with that. I'm going to say the response to 9/11 resulted in Trump, I would say.
of course.
Yeah.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
Of course, right?
Yeah.
No, but that's just
So
because
ipso
you can say that.
facto.
You can say that about
Hit me
everything.
been born.
You can say that about everything in American history past 9/11, though. I think it's like this is probably because of 9/11.
Iron Man.
Well, I don't want to
The
blame it
MCU?
on 9/11, but
We
Are
wouldn't
you
have the
serious?
MCU
Of
without
course, the
9/11. Where we-
MCU is because of 9/11.
Exactly. Yeah.
100%.
Mhm.
Family Guy seasons 3
Do you
onwards.
remember that joke in Family Guy that's like, Peter, you didn't even know what 9/11 was until 2004? Cool. Okay.
I love how you guys always mention 9/11 every single chance we get.
Every
It's-
single chance.
I'm just
funny
fulfilling
that
a brand
that it has
now.
become a run. Yeah, it is. Yeah, we're just cashing those paychecks now, those 9/11 paychecks. But yeah, it is.
I wanna
It is
spit
weird that it's
something.
like this national tragedy. I remember very early on, when 3 out of the 4 of you weren't listening to the show, but I made some 9/11 reference to Brent, and I was like, oh my god, or like you made some reference to it, and I was like, oh my god, like this actually was a horrible thing that happened to your country. And it's and it made me realize, like, oh my god, what are 2 fucking New Zealanders cracking jokes about it? Like,
I feel like
I just think maybe
my
we should stop.
I may be unhealthily obsessed with it, but I wouldn't say I necessarily cracked any jokes. That was all on you, buddy. I wasn't the one cracking
Well,
jokes.
I don't think we've ever. Well, maybe we have. I was gonna say I don't think we've ever like made light of it, but we probably have.
Probably.
I'm like
So
I'm
Seth
like the,
MacFarlane. So whatever.
I'm like the closest thing that y'all have to Pete Davidson. Like, yeah, no, I know people who might have known people who were in 9/11, so it's okay. You can make the jokes.
Jesus Christ.
So Vincent, you saw this after Justice League. How was that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this was the best movie I've ever fucking seen. For context, Dan and I watched the first half of Justice League the midnight it came out. Then I went to bed and watched the second half, fucking hated it, and then popped in It's a Wonderful Life and was uplifted beyond belief.
That's good.
And for you guys that hadn't seen it before, do you think this will like become a Christmas classic for you?
Doesn't sound like it.
Absolutely not.
No.
No, I mean, like, I will probably watch it again at some point in my life, but the Christmas part is so tangential that like I don't care that it's a Christmas movie. I'm not going to put it on because it's the 24th of December or whatever. So no.
Like,
Sorry,
I'll watch
Frank
it if I want my
Capra.
Jimmy Stewart fix.
This, and we should
Well,
also mention this is our second Jimmy Stewart movie for Movie Club.
Yeah,
After
Yeah,
Vertigo.
Richard, you like this more than Vertigo?
I do. Yeah.
I'm not
Okay.
shocked.
I do too.
Yeah.
I like this
Yeah, I
probably
don't
a
like
lot more than
Vertigo.
Vertigo.
Yeah,
I-
Exactly.
and I like Vertigo.
That's why I asked.
I like Zack Snyder's Justice League more than Vertigo. I haven't seen it yet. But
need to.
I'm curious to know what is everyone's Christmas movies? What are your go-to Christmas movies?
Come on, Die Hard. Not even a question.
Don't
Wait,
mess
you want
that
to see, like,
around
Christmas
then.
movies, Dan.
If you want to talk about family-friendly Christmas movies, then Elf, for sure.
Yeah.
Watch a
Dan,
lot.
how is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yeah, I've never heard
someone
that's
say
so
it.
interesting. What do you mean?
What
could
a
you
what a strange
possibly-
choice.
A strange thing to say.
Also, Home Alone. That's a really good one as well.
I haven't seen it.
No, fuck that movie.
I actually haven't. I've seen Home Alone 3. That's the only one I've seen.
That's not a Christmas one. That's set in January. The film was
right.
specifically set in January. It's real weird.
That's a chickenpox movie.
Well, obviously,
What are you guys' favorite
you know,
chickenpox movies?
Home Alone
Um,
3.
one of the all-time great Christmas movies, Klaus on Netflix. That's an instant classic for me in my household. Vincent, Brent, Jensen, you guys?
The Rankin and Bass ones, Rudolph or Santa Claus Coming
This
to
is
Town.
so
usually.
boring. I watched them this past Christmas, and I was like,
I thought you meant like Vincent explaining was so boring. And I was like,
no.
Yeah,
dude,
that's what I thought
like,
too. I'm like,
Dan,
okay.
Dan, like Die Hard, got a cool one. Oh my god, Vincent, it's
No,
so
I
fucking
would
boring.
never
Let's
know,
hear from
Vincent. I'm
Brent.
sorry, I didn't mean that. I'm saying the Rankin and Bass Christmas things. I watched them for the first time, and I just thought they were so boring, man.
You only watch 3 of them. Don't watch more than them, else you'll go crazy.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, how many are there?
They're like 10, 15. They're a
10,
lot.
yeah.
Wow, I watched Rudolph, and I think I watched
Alien Xmas.
no. Sorry.
I
Continue,
think this one,
Vincent.
I agree with Vincent though. I'm going to back him up on this because watching those, they're very, very good for children. Those specials, especially.
Yeah, because I'm sure AJ will tell us the story in a moment, but he's got one that he watches, and I think it's boring. And it's the same kind of thing. Anyway, we'll hear about that in just a moment.
Time to
So Vincent, do
panically
you have any other ones?
try and realize what Richard's talking about to conform to the story. Like, yes,
Your snowman ritual.
Oh,
That's what I'm
right.
talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, Vincent, yeah. Continue.
Well, I was rudely interrupted.
I'm sorry.
I mean, the last one that I still like to this day, even from growing up, is Charlie Brown Christmas. Like, I have
That's
watched
great.
that for as long as I can remember, and I
Mm.
still love it to this day. And even the new one, the Peanuts movie, has a bit of Christmas, so I pop that in. It's still just as good. So those are the ones I can genuinely recommend.
Nice. Brent?
We watched like Dan said, we watched a lot of Elf, at Christmas time. And then growing up,
Have you seen the Rankin Bass
Yeah, the
sequel they did?
musical.
no,
And it's
no.
Jim Parsons' buddy.
Oh,
Wait, what?
Yeah.
You talking about the stage musical?
No, it's
No.
like a Rankin Bass animated
Like the
sequel.
Oh, I know what
Buddy's
you're talking
Christmas
about.
Adventure or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, that exists too.
Huh. No, I didn't see that.
I liked it.
Growing up, I watched A Christmas Story a lot just because we had cable. And
I thought that's the one Richard was talking about when he said I had a boring one. I really like. Again, A Christmas Story was a movie I seeked out because New Zealanders don't really know about it.
More like a Christmas Bory.
And I think I'm a big fan of the Wonder Years, which was directly inspired by A Christmas Story. So I quite like A Christmas Story as well.
yeah, I like it a lot. I think that its humor is bizarre enough that you don't see many Christmas movies that have that weird, highly stylized, like when he's kicking the kid down and he puts his foot right in the camera on his face and all that stuff. Like, I don't know, it has a lot of it's fun. I have a lot of fun watching it.
It's also it's not hiding anything from you. There's no twists or subversion. It's very normal. It's just what it says it is on the tin. It's A Christmas Story. It's really interesting.
All right.
The only twist is the Ovaltine. Buy more Ovaltine.
I will say that I want to connect this to the movie we just watched. Earlier mentioned, because a lot of this reminded me of watching A Christmas Story, where it's the moments that stick out to us. But as a whole, it can be, mileage may vary, where I feel like A Christmas Story and this are great to have on the television because you pay attention when you want to, and then when you don't want to, you go to other things, and you catch the little vignettes. And I think both those work that way. Watching Christmas Story, I watched in theaters a couple years back. Oh boy, it's a whole different experience.
I can see that.
And the Asian racism at the end. Oh boy.
Right, yeah.
Oh, anyway, just want to butt in there and talk.
Jensen, mate, that's you. Step up to
Through
the plate.
attrition, my Christmas movie is Love Actually.
Nice.
Another problematic fave.
Problematic. Oh, really? Oh, really?
Oh, absolutely. Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
it's
sorry.
100% problematic.
There was that.
I watched
There
it.
was that Canadian sarcasm that I couldn't pick up on right there.
That sardonic wit. It's yeah, Love Actually is so interesting. I've said this multiple times, but it's Christmases are numbered as like a favorite, you know, like every year more people, and it becomes more mainstream to be like, yeah, it's not like don't get me wrong, I love Love Actually, and
I
like
actually love Love
my
Actually.
Get out.
My family, you know, that was like my family's Christmas movie. Every Christmas Eve my mum would put it on, and I'd
you'd
be like,
forget about
sorry,
the
I'm
gratuitous
going
sex
doing other
scenes
stuff.
Which is
But,
somehow the most
yeah.
wholesome part of the movie, besides the drummer, is the
Yeah.
are those two actors. That holds up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although speaking of the drama, the running through the airport scene doesn't hold up post 9/11, even though the film came out post 9/11.
And we've come full circle.
Yeah, no, you're right.
That's not on you, Richard.
I actually stopped watching Love Actually recently and switched to doing a full marathon of all the Star Wars films pretty much every December. So
Nice.
That's
more of a
worse.
bigger Christmas project.
That's more problematic.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that you have a Christmas tradition that isn't inherently tied to Christmas.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, good on you. And AJ.
All right, so every Christmas I watch the same 2 videos at least. I'll maybe throw some other videos in there, but I always have to have the 2 basics. One is a video essay by PBS Idea Channel called 100 Words for Snow, which is essentially explores the concept of hygge, which is I think a Dutch term, HYGGE, and it means comfortable in English. Roughly means comfortable. There's no perfect
Danish?
translation. Danish, you're right.
Danish.
It roughly means comfortable translated to English, but there's no perfect translation, which is kind of part of the romance of it. And it goes into how like Inuit languages have quote unquote 100 words for snow, but that's like a misunderstanding of how the language works, because it doesn't, in their languages, you don't talk how I'm talking now. It's more like word is a sentence in those languages, you know. So like instead of saying let's run up the snow, you would have, it's more efficient, it's more economical. You'd say like 2 or 3 words to say a whole sentence. And it goes into how like perfect it is that the end of the year coincides with returning home to family, and coincides with, I mean, in America, with being comfortable and it being too cold to go outside, so you're staying inside.
Here it's about being very uncomfortable. It's so hot, and everyone's like, "Let's go to the beach."
Yeah, and it's just a really calm video essay that I really love. I really love. R.I.P. PBS Idea Channel. We hardly knew ye. And then I also watched this was like 1986, The Snowman. Do people know about The Snowman?
Nope.
It's based on a book.
British thing.
It's based on a book that I've looked up.
It
Snowman
stars Michael
movie.
Fassbender.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Policeman, I gave all the clues. Yes.
1982. It's called The Snowman. It's a 26-minute short film that's based on a storybook, and there's no dialogue. It's all music and sound effects, and it's about a little boy who makes a snowman and it comes to life, and they fly away to Santa's workshop together, and then they fly back home, and
it's like animated with like pencils, like it's a cool animation. So
and you're on mute, Dan.
I grew up with this book. This is a great book.
Yeah.
I never really watched the special, but the book is fantastic.
And when they get home, he goes to bed, and when he wakes up in the morning, the snowman's melted, and it's this weirdly melancholy ending that really sticks with you, because it's like he doesn't come back at all. There's no like, but he's okay. It's like, nah, he fucking died.
Well, there is the Snowman and the Snow Dog sequel. which
didn't
came
know
out
about
30 years later,
Okay.
where the snowman returns.
Yeah, that's it, Dan. Yeah. And Richard said it's really boring, and I actually agree, but I watch it like real late at night as I'm trying to. I still at 27 years old struggle to fall asleep on Christmas Eve. So
Same.
this is like a way to lull me into that is by watching a relatively boring thing that's like a little bit too long. And
Yeah,
I really
my mum fucking loves it, and so it's like, yeah, that's kind of like she goes, "Oh, let's put on the snowman when I'm down in time
Yeah.
for Christmas," and it's
Um,
like, yeah,
and I really like when they fly away. The animation is like breathtaking. It's like
that's cool. It's very well
the
done.
the city, the township covered in snow, like disappearing under them as they fly, and it plays a song that's like, "We're walking on the air, we're floating on a midnight dream," and I
He
don't know.
waved the bell.
He waved a bell. I really like it. I agree that it is boring, but it just relaxes me. And once they stop flying and get to Santa's workshop, I'm like, whatever. It's not as good for me.
Yeah, it's
but-
actually like that,
Yeah.
I think that's why I think every time I watched it, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll give this a chance. And then it starts off so magical, and then the Santa's Workshop stuff, I'm always like, oh yeah, they end up in Santa's Workshop. What the fuck?
Yeah, and Santa does this for some reason, and I don't know what it means. He goes like, it's a real weird hand movement. I don't know what he's
like,
That looks
call
like
me.
Santa's been imbibing.
Yeah.
It's funny because that's a very Kiwi thing for Santa to do, because our
Yeah.
Santa is like a summer guy and he wears
Yeah.
jandals
Shaka.
or flip flops, as you
Yeah.
would call them.
But that's my Christmas tradition. That and It's a Wonderful Life, of course. But hey, I think we've probably talked. We've at least talked for the length of how long George Bailey is in the alternate universe, or double that even. So,
Substantially more than that.
so
Yeah, way more than that.
So I think we can maybe put a pin in that. Thank you for joining us, everybody. And if anyone's watching this over on the channel, which has now been renamed again to Cult Popture again, then if you want to be part of this, you can easily be a part of it. Just hop on Patreon and join our Cult Classic tier, and you too can pay money to be our friend. So we've got to do the
Wait,
roulette.
that's still
What's the
special.
next one? What can they pay $15 to talk about next time?
Yeah.
So this is now we're going to look at a list of films which at present we don't believe to have sequels. Some of them may have sequels produced by the company I work for, but there is so there's 204 films on this. They have to, the rules are they can't have a sequel, they have to be at least 10 years old, and unless they've been added in the last month, they have to be considered a classic. So the film I've added for this month is Limitless.
Oh,
Bradley Cooper,
which
Robert De Niro
does
film.
have a TV show spinoff. So does that
Sequel,
count as a
yeah.
sequel?
No, that doesn't count.
Does
All right.
not. But yeah, I quite liked that movie when I saw it. All right, I'm randomly generating a number. Let me
please
turn up
double
my
digit.
sound on my phone.
Please.
No, under 10. Under 10.
14?
40.
No.
40.
Oh,
40.
Four.
Oh my god, it's
that's
not.
not working at
There
all.
you go.
Yeah.
There you go. 40.
40.
Okay.
Make us guess, Richard. Make us work for it.
Yeah. Give us
Okay.
a baby.
This is one of two movies which are like very, they're not related to each other, but they're very like intrinsically tied in my mind and a lot of other people's minds.
Claire, it's 1990.
It's it won Best Picture.
What movie is it tied to?
Is it Driving Miss Daisy?
I know what it is. I know what it is. I know what it's either one. Oh no, if it won Best Picture, I know.
Yeah,
what it
yeah.
is. It's No Country
Yeah.
for Old Men.
It is No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
Oh,
All
Oh,
right.
it's
hell yeah.
That's so annoying because I've never seen There Will Be Blood, but I've seen No Country for Old Men dozens of times. I've always wanted to watch There Will Be Blood, but I've never seen it.
I've seen.
That's the connection you're talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just that they're like a lot of people get the two confused.
A lot
Oh.
of people get
and
confused.
and
there.
also they were like the two. They're often considered like two of the best movies of the 2000s, and they happen to be competing for Best Picture at the same time.
And filmed like next to each other locationally as well.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. But yeah, there's like they had to shut down production of No Country for Old Men because of smoke from There Will Be Blood.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, I love this movie, so I'm very excited to watch it again.
There will be smoke.
I'm kidding. I am always bummed when we roll movies on here that I've already seen, but
which is most of the time so far. I think the only one I haven't seen, I hadn't seen Vertigo, and I hadn't seen My Cousin Vinny, but I've seen all the other ones. I think.
Excuse me. What's time of the West?
That's true. I forgot about that movie already.
Everyone forgot about that movie. It's a crime that people forgot.
No Country for Old Men rocks. I'm very excited to talk about that. So if you looking forward to talking to you guys about that next month, and if you want to join, head on over to Patreon so you can talk to us about it as well. But other than that, thank you very much, everybody. Sorry to go all formal and presentery in the last few seconds. You got to give the people what they want, I guess. This is a professional operation. All right. Goodbye, everyone. See ya.
Thank you.